Welcome to the Augmentation of Man with Kent and Renee Miller.
Well, we have gotten messages from the other side, and we are at the turning point.
And so today we're going to discuss some of these messages that we've gotten both from our spiritual guides, the ancients, while Kent is in a trance or a deep meditative state. And some of these are going to be from our family that have crossed on, and we're going to explain how that works. But one of the messages is, and the theme of it is keeping our focus on God, but also focus on our higher self.
Yes,
So we really need to explain what the higher self is.
It's the me. I guess I can say it. It's the inner self. It's the information that you have collected over many lifetimes. You're able to bring some of it up. You're able to contemplate where you are now. You're able to bring the higher intelligence of yourself in and listen to what it says. In other words, when you feel like you have to do something and your brain tells you one thing and your gut tells you another, and you follow your brain, and then to find out you should have followed your gut, that would be the higher self.
So the higher self works in conjunction with the soul. Together they're one, and it predetermines cause and effect. So the cause would be the learning, and so it sets up events in our path, and the higher self determines future lifetimes, and it's all about what the higher self and the soul have determined is necessary for our conscious evolution and our spiritual growth.
The higher self is basically self-teaching. It tells you to do something and you decide not to, you still have that lesson to learn, even though you bypassed it, but you will eventually learn it.
And either way, you're learning a lesson,
Right.
But it may not be the lesson that was set forth on your path.
Right, for you to learn. So whether you agree in your higher self or not, that's a lesson for you to be involved in, to learn. And I know sometimes we don't like learning.
Yeah, and it's real hard to accept certain life events as a learning experience.
Extremely hard.
It is, and especially when we were involved in that decision making. So
we want life just to continue very smooth, with no bumps,
lots of fun,
and don't learn anything you don't want to learn because it's too tough. We want an easy life, boy.
But we're being told that's not the right path. So a smooth, easy, effortless life that is full of fun and entertainment value is not the correct path. The correct path is all about our conscious evolution and our learning. And it is through the events that we create singly and collectively that we reflect on those events and we come to a higher understanding of what created the event. So the higher self determines what learning is needed and works in conjunction with the soul. And the soul is really like, they described it as like a flash drive. It has these nanoparticles of that stores information, and that information has been gathered over multiple lifetimes and learning outside of the physical world too, in the spirit realm, because there's other spheres of learning that we can go to.
It's called experiential learning.
Or this Earth is called an experiential learning field.
because Earth is a lab.
Mhm.
As we
And
know,
and it's full of experiences.
whether you think they're good or bad, it's experiences.
And so the purpose of life, you want to describe the purpose of life?
So we're a piece of this huge puzzle. Every individual is a piece of this puzzle. And some parts of the puzzle are big, such as like this. And some parts are like this. But in order to learn from this life, all parts of the puzzle have to be put in place.
Mhm.
Now, if you think you're not important, you are, because you are part of the whole puzzle. And you have to reflect on your importance is no different than somebody who has a big piece, which would be billions of dollars, and telling things how they should be run, how they shouldn't be run. And you are part of this puzzle. You are just as important as that so-called big piece of puzzle. And in order for all this to fit together, it has to come to a point of understanding why you are here.
So as we make decisions in this experiential learning field, we create events out of those decisions. And it is our job to reflect on those events, those experiences, and to come to an understanding of why we created them in the first place. What led up to, what were the decisions that were made that led up to that final event happening? What created the event? And when we reflect on that, we're learning about various energies and a variety of different things. And so we tend to look at it from different aspects as we're analyzing. So we're looking at it from eventually, hopefully, 360 degrees. So if you're looking at a circle and your event is in the circle and you're looking at it from different angles, then eventually the goal is to see it from all angles or 360 degrees. And then we get a vibrational attunement to that new understanding. When we get that vibrational attunement, it also attunes the atomic structure of our physical bodies, raising the vibration of the matter that makes up our body. And so as we're learning, we're raising the vibration of this physical environment as well. All this learning is orchestrated by the creator.
Correct. So we recently celebrated All Souls Day. And with that, we invite family members who have passed over to share their favorite foods with us. And what happens?
And so during this time, and as our celebration has evolved, we have learned to converse with them. At first, it was more Kent and I preparing their favorite foods and speaking to them and reminiscing about different things that happened while they were here, telling them how much we love them. But now we start to ask them questions, and Kent is really the transceiver for that communication. And so on this occasion, the family that did come, now not all of them will come because they may be busy doing other things.
Or they may be stuck in a place.
Yes. And so this idea that when we die, we go somewhere up on a cloud or we return to God, that is not entirely true either. And so at our level, we're still learning the basics, and that is so, even in the spirit realm, when we pass from here, we're still having to learn the basics, and we have not grown in our level of understanding to be able to converse directly with God, the creator.
The creator God is so much more than we as humans, that includes me and that includes you, understand. We just totally see things what we're told, like a kindergartner is told that is a block. And you say, okay, it's a block, but there's much more to that block than just a square.
And the creator is much more than
more.
what we can imagine. And so there are emissaries of the creator that work on our behalf. So when someone says that God was communicating to them, sometimes that happens, but for the most part, it's the representative of God that acts as an intermediary between us and the creator. And they have privilege of seeing everything from a much broader perspective.
Yeah.
So most of us have heard about the tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel. And so you want to start with that?
Not really knowing what to say, except they're saying when they die on a temporary basis, they supposedly see relatives and greet them. And there are some there that they don't recognize. So we haven't gone to the point of understanding what that really is. The reflection area or the light at the end of a tunnel is a reflection area where the self, the soul, reflects on what they learned here in this life. And sometimes it takes quite a while in the reflection area before you realize who you really are. Depends on what you did in this particular life and what you really try to learn. Those that are closer to the creator will spend less time in the reflection area because they try to follow the ordinances of the creator. Now, do we understand what this is? No, we're like a kindergarten, just learning. And they haven't taught us enough in kindergarten to really understand what this is all about.
So when I was younger, and I was in a yoga class, and I had this out-of-body experience.
She liked to tell this story.
And I had never heard about the tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel at that point in my life. But during this yoga exercise, we did all this stretching. And then at the end of the class, we did a meditation. And on this particular day, I found myself in this tunnel traveling at this hyper speed. I kind of liken it to having a vacuum, like this super big vacuum at the end of the tunnel, just sucking me through. And as I rounded this bend, and there was no one in this tunnel except me, and just flying super fast I rounded a bend, and then it was circular. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. And as I approached that, there was a man in a white robe who stepped out in front of me, blocking me, but I could only see because he was kind of had his back turned toward me, and long wavy brown hair, and his face had scars on it, like pock marks. Now, a sister of mine had asked if it was Jesus, and I cannot say that was Jesus. I don't know for sure who that was. all I know is that as he stepped out in front of me, my first thought was, I'm going to collide with him. And at that very instant, I was thrown back into my body, and I just literally, my arms and my legs just slapped the mat I was lying on very loudly. And I sat there wondering what the heck just happened to me. And so it was a very profound experience at that time. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that I actually learned about the tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel. So what our guides have told us is that this tunnel is like a garage that houses our soul, and it extends beyond this physical earth. So when we exit our life from here in a physical death, we are basically moving back through this tunnel, and then we progress on to the light if we have processed our lessons here to a sufficient degree to be able to move to the light, where we're going to process them at a much more in-depth level.
Right. Remember, God doesn't judge you. He lets you judge yourself. And who is the worst, the harshest of all judges? On yourself. Because you have to judge yourself through truth. And you become the harshest of judges.
And so this reflection area, in this reflection area, our life is replayed back to us in a holographic image. And from there, we go into this deep analysis of the events and the choices that we made during that lifetime. And it is a judgment call in that we are analyzing ourselves. It has nothing to do really with other people. This is all about ourselves, the choices we made, if we stayed on the path, if we veered off the path, if we fulfilled the lessons that we had intended to learn while we were here.
That's why it takes some people less time than others in the reflection area, depending on what you did here. If you were a murderer, you killed somebody, or you stole a lot of things, or things of that nature, rather than somebody that trying to follow the learning process of helping others, you're going to be in the reflection area much longer.
And I think too, people who do not do that self-reflection and tend to cast blame out on everyone else and not accept the fact that they made those decisions,
the spirits.
Then they're going to have a lot more.
Yeah, they hang around here. This is where your spirits come in. Somebody says, "Oh, place is haunted." Spirits that haven't come to terms with their reflection, that have rejected it because they will not learn yet.
And they're perhaps hostile, angry, those sort of things will hold us hostage to this plane until we come to terms with it, and until we do that self-reflection enough that we have processed enough of those lessons and come to a higher level of understanding where we can go deeper once we get into the reflection area.
Once you learn, then you're able to go on. If you don't learn yet, then you're going to stay here for a long time, trying to decide whether you should learn or not, because you can become very adamant in your ways not to learn and cause your reflection on others to be negative.
And again, once you get into this reflection area, it is all about accountability, self-accountability. What I did, what I didn't do, what I failed to do, what I accomplished, but it is completely within ourselves. And the blame cannot be cast outside of ourselves. So, and I would say there's probably a few exceptions, things that are out of our
Right.
control.
Right.
So once that reflection is complete, then there's other things that we can move on to in the spirit realm
Right.
for learning.
Right. Because of the things that you can do in the spirit. But we don't understand. The human being really doesn't understand the spirit world, what's involved in it. They think we go and sit on a cloud or whatever. There's much, much more to be done in the spirit world than one believes.
And they're actually very busy.
Yes.
In fact, when they come to visit us, they're here only for a very short period, and they will be moving on rather quickly. They may be here for maybe 10 minutes, and then they'll inform us it's time to leave now, because they have other things to do. They do not waste their time on things that are not of value. It is all about their gaining higher levels of understanding and consciousness.
Yeah. And those in reflection may come just for a very quick instant. And they have to get back to the reflection area because they have not gone through their whole, what they accomplished in this particular lifetime.
So they're very efficient with their time, even though there is, our idea of time is much different than the universe's time, but they don't waste time on things that are not going to be of value to their spiritual growth. So there's other learning spheres, and there's lots of things that one can do once they pass on. And you can travel around the universe. One of them has described measuring the diameter of a certain sphere of the galaxy. You can plan to reincarnate here to Earth, our chosen home base, so to speak, for most people. What are some of the other things that our family has described doing on the other side?
Helping, one of the family members helping others to try to get across.
To reincarnate.
To reincarnate back here for what they're going to be learning. Remember that. Yeah.
They have described that we're a part of this very large soul group or family group.
We can call it family, but it's a big soul group.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly how large it is. They just say it's very large. And a couple of them on this past All Souls Day, a couple of them showed up at our celebration who we didn't really know, and their names were not familiar to us, but they did say that they were part of our soul group, but that they're doing different things.
They came into our others' lives in the past, or they're coming in the future. We don't know.
Or they're incarnating in different areas of the world. So there's lots of things that people can do, and I wouldn't limit what people do on the other side, because it's infinite what we can do.
Yeah, we just assume what can be done, but we really don't know, because we're not privileged to that information in our state.
We did have my grandmother, before she incarnated again, she said, I asked her what she was doing one year, and she said she was painting. And I was so astonished. I was like, what? You're painting? And I said, what are you painting? And she said she was painting pictures of the other side, not Earth, but of the other side. And she was preparing to incarnate again. And her objective was she was practicing painting before she came here, because somehow she's going to touch my life. I will know her, and she's going to paint these pictures for me to show me what it looks like on the other side. So that was very unexpected.
Yeah,
And
because she wasn't a painter in this life.
no, in her past life, she wasn't a painter. So I thought that was really interesting. I never would have guessed
And you've
that
run
was
across,
going to come
yeah.
across.
you've run across people you've literally been drawn to and would like to know them as a friend. And you've come across people who you wish to push away. And you don't want to know them. Was possibly the ones that you want to be drawn to, or want them to be drawn to you, are part of your large family that you don't know, but they are part of your large family.
And you recognize them vibrationally at the soul level. And so some of the other things that have been conveyed to us over the years by our family members that have crossed over is some may portray a sense of mournfulness of false ideologies that they believed in while they were in the physical. Some may have had regrets about things they did or did not do in their past life. Some may be still angry and lost and have not moved on. Some worry that maybe they won't be forgiven for things that they did.
You are your worst judge.
Mm-hmm.
You have to forgive yourself to begin with.
But they did reassure us that in these coming changes, and they did say that we are at this juncture now, and that, what did they call it? A turning point.
Turning point.
That things are going to become quite difficult for us, but that they would be prepared to watch over us and assist us from the other side. And so that was reassuring in some respects. So one of the major messages that we got was to keep our heart on God.
Keep your path. Don't give up learning. Don't give up the Creator. The Creator assumes that we will be learning, but we have what we call free will. Whether we want to learn or not, we have that choice. But you have to keep your heart and your path on the Creator and what the Creator wants you to learn. And when you have that feeling, gut feeling, rather than your head feeling on something, go with your gut. The learning may be tough. It may be difficult, but you are doing the will of the Creator, and you'll eventually be rewarded for your learning.
Mm-hmm. So in addition to what our family members have relayed to us, our guides have also told us that we're coming up on this pivotal period of time, this turning point, and that the worst is yet to come. It's going to get quite difficult. But out of that, out of our trials, that is when we really turn to God. And that is the whole purpose of this, is to get humanity to turn away from its secular ways and to turn back to God, the Creator. So a few days ago, we were told that Seption was to begin. Now, Seption, as in conception, means awareness, and that there will be some level of awareness that will begin. And we've also been told that this outside atmospheric disturbance that we covered in our last video will have an effect on the life force field, magnifying it, and that there will be a recognition of a higher self for many of us, but not all of us.
The higher self, the inner self is so important. Once you learn how to listen to what it's trying to tell you.
So the life force field is the field. It comes from creator and the light beings. It's a field that is like a stream of life force. And it goes to habitable planets where there's higher life forms, or all life forms. So it doesn't go to all planets, but then we're standing in the stream, and that gives our bodies the life force and the animation to keep it alive.
Okay, how do we get in touch with ourselves? How do we get in touch with the inner self? Well, it takes a lot of time and work to really understand who we are inside. You're trying to be something that you are not here. You're not here for the purpose of. And that's the problem. You have to listen to the inner voice and discern what you hear.
I would have to say part of that would be chasing after this projection of self
want.
Or
I call it not the need, but the want.
Where you're trying to project an illusion of who you are that's not aligned to who you really are on the inside. It may be ego generated. It may be generated by other things that are going on in our own minds, but it's not aligned to who we are at the deepest level.
Yeah, remember, we challenge and worry about 96% of the things that have never happened. So we have to we have to sit down and listen to ourselves. And when we listen, to act upon what we listen.
What we hear.
Yeah, what we hear.
Mhm.
To act upon it. If it tells you to go out and kill someone, that is not your inner self. That is something that's interfering. That's what I'm talking about, discernment.
Mhm.
You have to learn discernment.
And it takes time to really understand who we are on the inside, because we are influenced by a lot of factors on the outside and a lot of persuasive people. Even it could be our parents who are persuading us to do, follow certain fields of study and jobs. It could be that other people are trying to persuade us to make certain decisions or do certain things or abide by the family codes, those sort of things. And we have to look at those and realize that it does not make us who we are. And we really need to stick to our path and not be persuaded and distracted by others.
For those that think, oh, I'm going to be able to do what I want on this plane, on this field, and I don't have to do any of this, what I say.
As in what you say?
And what I said, you don't have to learn. You can do what you want, and you can go for power or money or whatever you feel is the most important thing in this world. And you'll deceive people, you'll hurt others, even though you won't see them. You'll hurt ones that you don't know. When all this comes down, you're going to be judged yourself on what you really did, and you're not going to like what you really did.
So what we need to do is to really focus on what is going inside us, where our heart is, what we feel we should be doing, where we feel we should be living and being true to ourselves, not being persuaded by outside and external things, including the material world. So it's time to start attuning to our higher self. The outside atmospheric disturbance coming in is going to start shifting things in our atmosphere. It's going to start magnifying the life force field. We're going to start being presented with our higher self. And are we going to recognize our higher self? And so then from there, we need to allow the higher self to start taking control again and letting our movements, our physical movements, our decisions be scripted from a higher plane, focused on our conscious evolution.
Well, with that, we thank you for being with us today. And hopefully you'll learn something from today's video.
And we encourage you to like and to share. If you want to receive these, you can visit our website, verdience.com, and at the bottom of the page, sign up for our email in which you'll receive these videos. So peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment, and have a good week.
And take care of yourself. And the car that hit me, you just seen that car demolished it.